Good morning, this is Chuck from Monocoque Metalworks. The past few days I've been working on fitting these doors to this 61 Roadster body shell. We actually built this Roadster body shell from the ground up in our jig, which is here, but most of the jigs are out of it right now on our frame table. They're all sitting over there. But for the past couple days I've been fitting these doors. Doors are the bane of my existence. I put them off till the end, but you usually have to do them at the end anyway. Although when you're working on your car at home, if you do the doors first, they can help you kind of jig the car. Here we don't need that, but that's a little tip. But anyway, these are doors for a 61 Roadster. You can see they are the two-piece design where the top is spot welded onto the bottom half of the skin, and that's factory original for these early cars. We'll talk about that a little more on the other side. But I'll give you a few tips to kind of show you how this is done if you haven't seen it before, and you can go over there. The first thing you got to do is get the door in the hole and get it somewhat fit. Now, you've got 4 bolts here that bolt the hinge to the body shell. And what these bolts, they're in a caged plates back in there. What this is going to let you do is move the door in and out in the body, and then also will let you twist it like this. So you can get the bottom out more or the top out more or in. But that's what happens with that part of the hinge. All right. Then you can see there's these 4 bolts here, and these are a special tapered bolt. You've got to have the right bolts for this. They are available in the aftermarket, and they fit just fine. But you've got these 4 bolts here. They are really tough to get to in there, but you get them in there, all right, and those will let you move the door front and back, and then tilted like this. All right, so that gets you in the hole, and then you've got to work on your gaps. Now, we make and sell door skins here, but you won't see them available online in the catalog or on eBay. You have to call us to get them, because I want people to call and talk to me and get the speech about door skins, which is that these doors are all skinned by hand at the factory and in the aftermarket. When you're folding that edge over, you're never quite sure what you're going to get, and so the doors come out all different sizes. And at the factory, they separated them out. As the cars came down the line, they pulled a door out that would fit in the hole and have, gaps all the way around. And then they leaded the opening to fit that door. So when you reskin your door, it's no longer that door. It's a little bit different now. And you either got to re-lead the opening, or what we do, and what the better way to attack it, is to go ahead and weld on the edges of the door and grind it down to fit your hole in the body shell. So we've built this up from scratch. We're able to be a little more meticulous than they were at the factory. I had to weld on up in this corner, you almost always do, to kind of get that curve just right. But the front edge was okay. And then I did have to weld on in the back edge. It's very tricky work. I recommend doing it with a MIG, because with a MIG, you're kind of adding metal as that wire comes out. And that's the whole point to this. If you come around here, you can see where I have welded on. Had to put on close to an 1/8 inch on the back of this, and you can see it from the. I give you permission to look at the back side. It looks just like it did. Actually, it's a little more wrinkly in the spot that hasn't been added on and ground down, because that's the skin there. But you want it to look like nothing's happened, and so then you grind it down nice and flat. Then you take a file and round that edge a little bit, because you want a thin edge. You don't want a big, fat 1/4 inch thick edge, and I'm going to tell you in a second what causes that. So there you go. Now, you need a nice big gap up front. People try to shoot for 3/16. You actually need a little bit more than that. You need, not quite a 1/4 inch, because if you don't have it, this thing wants to hit. And so you've got to have a little wider gap than you would want, or it's going to give you problems. Up here on the top, and I might have a little more work to do here, this is usually a pretty tight gap up here, and then in the back, it's usually tighter. So, you know, in your modern cars, you have 3/16 all the way around. That is not how an E-type works. You can do 3/16 down here, but you can really make the bottom as tight as you dare. The back is also usually 1/8 of an inch or less. Now, I've put 1/8 of an inch in here by welding and grinding on the door and making it nice and straight. You've got to remember, when you put on your fillers and your primer and your fillers and your sealers and your sandable primer and then your paint, it is going to build up, build up, build up. Now, not much, but you've only got a little bit to work with here. So if you throw on 20, 30 thousandths of paint on both panels, you're really closing this gap. So you don't want to go too crazy in the metalwork phase on your door gaps. You want to finish that out in the bodywork phase. Now, next, I'm going to take this piece, and this is the last thing I've got to do for this shell before it can come out of the rotisserie, go into a cart, and get the bonnet put on. See, it goes jig, then rotisserie, then cart. This little finisher piece back here will get spot welded along here, and then the factory would put a bunch of lead up in here. And then actually, it's all, because it's got this seam here, this seam is on all Roadsters down here, and it's leaded in. On the early cars, they just cover this with chrome on the Roadsters, so you don't have to worry about it. But on the coupes, they did lead that as well. Now, if you come around here to this side, I told you these early doors have a 2-piece spot welded thing. I think they did that because it's a lot easier to make. I can tell you that at the factory. And then I think they also allowed them to put the bottom half on, get it on the car, and then with this piece already on, go ahead and position this and then just spot weld it where they wanted to. Now, if you're doing an early car, you have got to have these early skins that are 2-piece. You can't just get the off-the-shelf skin from the other guys and do it. And I'm going to show you why. The early cars have a different piece of chrome. This is your standard E-type Roadster door chrome. And these actually will have a lot of different shapes on them. They're not real uniform. This is the early chrome. And see, it's got this little stepped edge down here. This, if you look, is a lot different than this. See, if you line up the top, we practiced this video and it was a lot easier. So you line up the top. Can you see where there's a huge difference in the size of this and also the shape of the swoop? So now this door, you're going to take your original early chromes, which people are really into originality now. So if you got one of these cars, you better have this chrome. And see, that fits right on there. Boom. Perfect. All right. So you need the early skins. We have them here. Here's one that's fresh off the shelf, beautiful, cold rolled steel. You don't have to get off any crappy primer or anything. And then you'll get the top piece separate so that you can position it just right, like we do here. Having this stuff separate always helps. Now on this one, I've got to put this piece on the back. And then on the back of this door, you can see I still have to do the gap on the back of this door. So it's a little tight down here and it's a little wide here. But as you're doing this, you can't just weld on the door and make it match the car. You've got to have a straight line. And so what you're better off doing is welding on the door, getting yourself a nice straight line on the door, and then having your variance in the body, because you can put a little bit of filler on here and smooth it out, but you can't really put filler on the door. Now, one thing I forgot to show you on the other side, where I talked about sometimes you'll open an E-type door and it's like a 1/4 inch thick. That's because nowadays, and they didn't do this at the factory, people want everything to be dead straight along here. See, I moved the door. I had it perfect. See? Boom. There you go. Dead straight on the rear quarter, the whole door, up there on the bulkhead side panel, and the bonnet, when the bonnet will be on there. Now, if you don't get this just right in the door fitting, you're going to, if the door's sunken in or out here and you can't get any more adjustment out of it, you've got to fill in the door, and you don't want to do that. You want to spend a lot of time fitting the door so that when you open the door, you've just got that little double thick edge of the metal and not some 1/4 inch wide thing. Now, if you come over here real quick, just to finish things up, I'll show you where... Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to show you here. Follow me over here. Sorry, it's tough to remember all this stuff. If you look here where I was talking about having the door being straight and the body a little different, you can see this is the seam up here. This is exactly like the factory. I have welded and ground on the front of this door. It's dead straight, but then you can see where the bulkhead side panel kind of wavers in a little bit there, and right there is where your lead is going to be. Don't worry about that, because your choice of lead or a filler, you're going to take care of that when you take care of this seam, just like this over here. Here's a factory shell with the lead still in it. You can see the lead comes across, and then they've gone ahead and taken care of that right in there, and there's just a little bit of residual lead up here. So here they didn't lead the body shell that much to fit the door, like I was saying in the beginning. But if you come around here to this side, you can see where over here, same thing, you've got the leaded seam, but then they have taken that lead and gone up around the corner and sculpted the corner here in this body shell to fit this car's original door. Also back here, you can see there's always lead in this area of a coupe to finish this off, but then see down here, they've dragged the lead down in here, and they've gone ahead and made this body edge here fit the door. So that's maybe a little more about doors than you wanted to know, but they are really just the bane of my existence. Skinning them is tough. You've got to get the skin in the right place or you won't be able to adjust it, and you've just got to do the best that you can. We have skins for everything here. Don't send the doors in. I've got too much work already and too many doors to do for these cars, but I will talk you through it no matter what it takes. So, hope that helps. That's what I've been working on, and I've probably got another day of it ahead of me. Thanks for watching.